She was the most invisible woman in Nazi Germany. For over 13 years, she loved the most powerful man in Europe. She waited for him. She stayed loyal to him. She gave up everything for him, and almost nobody knew she existed. Her name was Eva Braun, and her story is one of the strangest love stories in history. She was not a monster. She was not a politician. She was not a Nazi true believer. She was just a woman who fell in love with the wrong man. A woman who made a choice at 17 years old and spent the rest of her short life living with the consequences of that choice. This is not a story that excuses Adolf Hitler or the horrors of his regime. This is a story about a human being. A young woman from Munich who wanted love, security, and a normal life. Instead, she got secrecy, loneliness, and death in an underground bunker at the age of 33. Who was Eva Braun? How did she meet Hitler? What was their relationship really like? And why did she choose to die beside him when she could have escaped? Let me tell you her story. From the beginning. Eva Anna Paula Braun was born on February 6, 1912, in Munich, Germany. She was the middle child of 3 daughters. Her father, Friedrich, was a schoolteacher. Her mother, Franziska, was a seamstress. It was a respectable, middle-class Catholic family. Nothing special, nothing remarkable. Young Eva was pretty but not beautiful, smart but not brilliant. She liked fashion, movies, and sports. She was good at swimming and skiing. She took photographs as a hobby. She dreamed of being an actress or a movie star, like millions of other young women in the 1920s. She attended a Catholic school run by nuns. She was an average student who preferred having fun to studying hard. Her teachers remembered her as pleasant, but not particularly ambitious. She was just a normal girl living a normal life in post-war Germany. When she finished school at 17, Eva needed a job. Her family was not wealthy. Germany was struggling through economic depression. A family friend helped her find work at a photography studio in Munich. The studio was owned by a man named Heinrich Hoffmann. This was the connection that changed everything. Heinrich Hoffmann was not just any photographer. He was Adolf Hitler's personal photographer, the official recorder of the Nazi movement. He traveled with Hitler, documented his speeches and rallies, and sold the images that helped build the Hitler myth. In October 1929, Eva Braun was working late at Hoffmann's studio when a visitor arrived. He was a middle-aged man with a small mustache, wearing a trench coat and carrying a hat. Hoffmann introduced him as Herr Wolf, a fake name Hitler sometimes used. Eva did not know who he was at first. She was 17. He was 40. She thought he looked at her legs when she climbed a ladder to get files. She thought he was old, but had nice eyes. That was their first meeting. Nothing romantic, nothing dramatic, just a brief encounter between a teenager and a stranger in a photography studio. But Adolf Hitler remembered her, and he came back. Over the following months, Hitler visited Hoffmann's studio often. He brought Eva flowers. He took her to dinner. He bought her gifts. He was polite, charming, and attentive. He made her feel special. Eva was flattered. Here was an important man, a political leader, paying attention to her. She was just a shop girl from an ordinary family. He was famous, powerful, mysterious. It was exciting. By 1931, they had begun a relationship. Eva was 19. Hitler was 42. The age difference was enormous. The power difference was even greater. He was the leader of a growing political movement. She was nobody. From the very beginning, the relationship was a secret. Hitler believed that German women were drawn to him because he was unmarried. A bachelor could be every woman's fantasy. A married man, or a man with a known girlfriend, would lose that appeal. So Eva was hidden. She could not be seen with him in public. She could not attend official events. She could not tell anyone about their relationship. When Hitler was photographed with women, Eva was kept out of the frame. She was erased from his public life completely. This secrecy would define their entire relationship. For 13 years, Eva Braun loved Adolf Hitler in the shadows. The early years were difficult. Eva was young, emotional, and desperately in love. Hitler was busy, distracted, and often absent. He was building a political movement. He was giving speeches across Germany. He was plotting to take over the country. He did not have time for a needy girlfriend. Eva felt abandoned. She felt invisible. She felt like she did not matter to the man she loved. In August 1932, she tried to kill herself. She shot herself in the chest with her father's pistol. The bullet missed her heart. She survived. Was it a serious suicide attempt? Or a cry for attention? Historians disagree. What is certain is that it worked. Hitler was frightened by the possibility of losing her. He began paying more attention. He gave her a small apartment. He visited more often. But the pattern continued. Hitler would get busy and forget about her. Eva would feel neglected and desperate. The cycle repeated. In May 1935, Eva tried to kill herself again. This time she took an overdose of sleeping pills. Her sister found her and called a doctor. She survived again. After this second attempt, Hitler made changes. He bought Eva a house in Munich. He gave her a car and a driver. He put her on his personal payroll. He made sure she was financially secure and comfortable. But he still would not acknowledge her publicly. She was still his secret. In 1936, Hitler invited Eva to visit his mountain retreat at Berghof in the Bavarian Alps. This became her home. She lived there most of the time, waiting for Hitler to visit, managing the household, hosting guests. At Berghof, Eva was Hitler's hostess. She arranged dinners and entertainment. She greeted visitors and made small talk. But she was always introduced as a secretary or assistant, never as Hitler's girlfriend. The charade continued even among people who knew the truth. What was Eva's life like during these years? In some ways, it was luxurious. She had beautiful clothes, expensive jewelry, and a comfortable home in the mountains. She had servants and drivers. She could afford anything she wanted. But she was also trapped. She could not have a public life. She could not have normal friendships. She could not leave Berghof without permission. She was a prisoner in a golden cage, waiting for a man who was usually somewhere else. She filled her time with hobbies. She became an excellent photographer, documenting life at Berghof with her cameras. She swam, skied, and exercised to stay fit. She watched movies, sometimes 2 or 3 a day. She read magazines about fashion and Hollywood stars. She played with her dogs, 2 Scottish terriers that she adored. She also spent time with Hitler's inner circle. Albert Speer, the architect, and his wife became friends. Other Nazi officials and their wives visited regularly. Eva hosted them all with charm and grace, but she had to be careful. Some of the Nazi leaders despised her. Martin Bormann, Hitler's powerful secretary, treated her with contempt. Joseph Goebbels thought she was empty-headed and unimportant. She had no political power and no official status. She survived by being pleasant, undemanding, and invisible. What did Eva think about the Nazi regime? What did she know about the crimes being committed in Hitler's name? This is a difficult question. Eva was not interested in politics. She never joined the Nazi Party. She never gave political speeches or attended ideological meetings. She seemed to exist in a bubble, focused on her personal life and relationship. But she was not stupid. She lived at the center of the Nazi world. She heard conversations. She saw documents. She knew important people. She must have known something about what was happening. The evidence suggests she knew about the persecution of Jews, but did not understand, or did not want to understand, the full horror of the Holocaust. She lived in a state of willful ignorance, focusing on her own small world while the larger world burned. This is not an excuse. Willful ignorance is its own form of moral failure. But it is different from active participation in evil. Eva Braun was not a war criminal. She was a bystander who chose not to see. As the war began in 1939, Eva's life continued much as before. She stayed at Berghof, while Hitler commanded his armies. She waited for his visits, which became less frequent as the war demanded more of his time. She worried about him constantly. She wrote him letters expressing her love and concern. She listened to news reports about the fighting. She prayed for his safety. The war years were lonely. Hitler was gone for months at a time, directing operations from various headquarters. Eva stayed in the mountains, waiting, always waiting. She tried to visit him at his military headquarters, but he usually refused. The war was men's business. She did not belong there. Her letters from this period reveal a woman who was deeply in love, but also deeply frustrated. She missed him. She worried about him. She felt useless and forgotten. "I am so infinitely happy that he loves me so much," she wrote in her diary, "and I pray that it will always be so. It won't be my fault if he ever stops loving me." The love was real. Whatever else we might say about Eva Braun, her feelings for Hitler were genuine. She loved him completely, devotedly, and without reservation. Did Hitler love her back? This is harder to answer. Hitler was not capable of normal human emotions. He was cold, narcissistic, and incapable of true intimacy. His relationships with women were always strange and distant, but he did care for Eva, in his own limited way. He provided for her. He protected her. He trusted her. And in the end, when he had pushed almost everyone else away, she was still there. Perhaps that is the closest Hitler ever came to love. By 1945, the war was lost. Everyone knew it, except, apparently, Hitler himself. Allied forces were closing in from all directions. German cities were being bombed into rubble. The Reich was dying. In January 1945, Eva made a decision that surprised everyone. She left the safety of Berghof and traveled to Berlin to be with Hitler. The city was being bombed daily. The situation was desperate. She had every reason to stay away, but she went anyway. She wanted to be with him. Whatever happened, she would face it at his side. Hitler was shocked when she arrived. He had not asked her to come. He told her to leave, to go somewhere safe. She refused. "I have come to stay," she said, and she meant it. For the next 3 months, Eva lived in the Führerbunker beneath Berlin. It was a terrible place. Cramped concrete rooms, stale air, constant noise from the generators. The ground shook with every bomb that fell above. But she stayed. She organized dinners. She tried to keep morale up. She remained calm and cheerful even as the world collapsed around them. Other people in the bunker noticed her courage. Secretaries and staff members who had barely known her before developed respect for her. She was brave when others were panicking. She was dignified when others were falling her to go. Her family was safe in Bavaria. She could have lived. She refused. She would stay with him until the end. On April 28th, 2 days before the end, Hitler asked Eva to marry him. After 13 years as his secret girlfriend, she would finally be his wife. The wedding was small and strange. A minor official was brought in to perform the ceremony. There were only a few witnesses. Both Hitler and Eva had to swear they were of pure Aryan blood, a final absurd touch of Nazi paperwork. When it came time to sign the marriage certificate, Eva started to write her maiden name automatically. She crossed it out and wrote Eva Hitler instead. For the first time in her life, she could use his name publicly. A small reception followed. Champagne was served. Someone made a toast. But the mood was dark. Everyone knew what came next. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun Hitler prepared to die. They said goodbye to the staff. They gave away their possessions. They made arrangements for their bodies to be burned so the Soviets could not display them. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, they retired to their private sitting room. The door closed behind them. Eva sat on the sofa. She bit down on a cyanide capsule. The poison worked quickly. Within seconds, she was dead. Hitler sat beside her. He put a pistol to his head and pulled the trigger. Their bodies were carried to the garden above and burned with gasoline. Soviet shells fell nearby as the flames consumed them. Within hours, nothing recognizable remained. Eva Braun was 33 years old. She had been Hitler's wife for less than 40 hours. What are we to make of Eva Braun? She was not a villain. She did not commit crimes or order murders. She was not part of the machinery of the Holocaust. She was a bystander, a witness, a woman who loved someone she should not have loved. But she was not innocent either. She chose to stay with Hitler until the end. She chose to die beside him. She made her choice with open eyes, knowing who he was and what he had done. Some people see her as a victim, a young woman seduced by a powerful older man, trapped in a relationship she could not escape. There is some truth to this. She was only 17 when they met. He was 40 and already a skilled manipulator. The power imbalance was overwhelming. Others see her as complicit. She enjoyed the luxuries that Nazi power provided. She looked away from the crimes being committed. She supported the man at the center of it all. She cannot be separated from the evil she chose to stand beside. Perhaps both views are true. Perhaps Eva Braun was both victim and accomplice. Perhaps she was a complicated human being who made terrible choices and paid for them with her life. Her family survived the war. Her sisters Ilse and Gretel both lived into old age. Gretel had married an SS officer named Hermann Fegelein, who was executed on Hitler's orders just days before the end. Gretel's daughter, Eva Braun's niece, grew up never knowing her famous aunt. The family rarely spoke about Eva publicly. The connection to Hitler was a source of shame, not pride. They lived quiet lives, trying to escape the shadow of the past. Today, Eva Braun is remembered as a historical footnote. The woman who married Hitler, the girlfriend nobody knew about, a supporting character in someone else's story. But she was also a person. A woman who wanted love and got obsession. A woman who wanted security and got a prison. A woman who wanted to matter and spent 13 years being invisible. She made her choices. She lived with them. She died with them. That is the story of Eva Braun. Not a monster. Not a hero. Just a woman who fell in love with the wrong man and followed him all the way to the grave. She was 33 years old. She had wanted to be a movie star. Instead, she became a ghost in history, a name attached to evil, a woman forever defined by the man she loved. Perhaps that is the saddest part of all. She gave everything for him, her youth, her freedom, her life, and in the end she became just another of his victims. Eva Braun deserved better, but she chose her fate, and history recorded it without mercy.